Country Life. Ideas and inspiration for your place in the country. You can find more information on today's topic, share your tips, and post photos by visiting us online at livingthecountrylife.com.
Today's Daily Encouragement by William the Encourager, sponsored by Ted Russell Nissan, home of the lifetime warranty on Kingston Pike.
Praise God, praise God. Thank you, Jesus. Let's pray, brothers and sisters. Father, once again, Lord, we can't help but to thank you, Lord God, because you've been so good. You've done so many things in our lives, Father. So we're asking you, Lord God, just to lead, to guide, and to direct us, Father. Lord, that when people see us, Lord, they will know that we have been with Jesus because we are portraying him and showing love to our brothers and sisters. It is in Jesus' precious name that we pray. Amen and amen. Brothers and sisters, Christmas is fastly approaching. So let us put on Christ, the blessings of Christ. Let us put on Christ that we might have love to show our brothers and sisters. John 14 and 15 says, if you love me, keep my commandments. Christ wants you to keep his commandments. There's hundreds of thousands of people that say, Lord, I love you. But remember, he asked Peter, Peter, love thou me? Peter said, Lord, you know I love you. He asked him 2 more times, Peter, love thou me? Peter said, Lord, you know I love you. Now, God is asking you the same question. Do you love me? Then keep my commandments. John 14 and 16 says, and I will pray the Father, and he shall give you another comforter, that he may abide with you forever. John 14 and 22 says, Judas said unto him, not Iscariot, Lord, how is it that thou wilt manifest thyself unto us, and not unto the world? And the next verse, 14 and 23, Jesus answered and said unto him, if a man love me, he will keep my words, and my Father will love him, and we will come unto him and make our abode with him. Oh, don't you want Jesus to make his abode with you? Because where Jesus is, there is peace, there's eternal life, there's mercy, there's grace, there's favor. Where Jesus is, there is so much peace and joy. Don't you want Jesus to abode with you? Let's not be like the world where Jesus came unto his own and his own received him not. Let's receive him graciously. As we approach Christmas, a time of giving, let us give as God gave. Let us live as Jesus lived. And let us understand that there's so much that God has given us that we might give to this world, that they might know that we've walked with Jesus. Jesus has given all of us gifts, talents, skills, and abilities, not for ourselves, not just for our families, but for those in the commonwealth, those others that are Christians, even those that are not Christians. For you never know the gift that you have that might lead others to Christ. But if you never share it and you just hold on to it, we must plant that seed. We cannot afford to put it up on a shelf. We don't want to be used to bees, because see, used to bees don't make honey. It takes a real bee to make honey. So don't be a used to bee. Use it now, because now is the time. Today is the day which is appointed to salvation. And remember, there is a way out of your mess, and it's JESUS.
We're can you buy a brand new Nissan with a lifetime warranty? Kingston Pike. Hey, folks, Gerald Anderson with Ted Russell Nissan. You heard it right. Every new Ted Russell Nissan comes with a lifetime warranty, and that's a long, long time. Ted Russell Nissan on Kingston Pike.
Good morning and welcome to AM 1380 WYSH and Ask Your Neighbor. Ask Your Neighbor can also be heard and seen on our website, WYSHradio.com. And if you are in Anderson, Rome, or Morgan County and have Comcast cable, you can watch Ask Your Neighbor on BBB TV Channel 12. Ask Your Neighbor is the program where you call in and do just that. Ask Your Neighbor. Do you have a comment? Do you have a problem? Or do you have a question? Then call in and ask your neighbor. 865-457-1380 or toll free at 877-711-4005. And for those of you that might be listening or watching on the internet, you can email from our website, WYSHradio.com. Just click on the Contact Us button and email your questions. Now sit back and listen as listeners throughout East Tennessee and the entire world answer your questions on Ask Your Neighbor on BBB TV 12 and AM 1380 WYSH.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome in to Ask Your Neighbor. Today is the third Wednesday of the month. Normally, Sheriff Russell Barker is here with us. He has sent his proxy. My friend, for how long have we known each other, Mr. Val?
At least since 1990, 91.
90, so yeah. Right there when I came bought the station. How are you, Shane?
Good.
You know, it's Captain Shane Val, but I texted Russell the other day, and I said, I'm embarrassed to ask Shane again. I've asked him his rank like 14 times. He texts back, he's Captain. I put it in my phone now, it's Captain, because I've just known you as homegrown Elvis.
Yeah, you call me that, that's fine. Maybe I can have that put on the uniform shirts.
Homegrown Elvis.
Put it on there, yeah.
You're not doing that anymore, are you?
Hey, I'm trying to get back into shape.
Okay. So you think about rekindling it.
There is a surprise show coming up in February on Valentine's Day.
Oh, wow.
And I may be able to announce that later on. But, yeah, I'm trying to get back into shape. My plan, my goal, which you and I talked about it a year or so ago, my goal is to actually do like a farewell tour.
Yeah.
And it's going to be
have a show.
Yeah, it's going to be like Kiss. It's going to be like last a year, for the farewell tour. But I want to do the fair. I want to do, of course, the 4th of July and Rock Shop, get back to doing that. And then maybe a show, maybe at the Ritz or something like that. And I want to coordinate with the maybe one of the high school band. I want to make it a big production, but there's still got a little bit of time. I got to coordinate everything. I'll need your help, of course.
I'd be happy to do it. You got to holler at Paul Parrott and Jeff, some of these boys. Put you together a band.
We have talked. We sure have.
You know what I mean? Do you one show with a live band and the whole
That's
night?
That's what I want to do. Absolutely.
I'll play drums for you if you do it.
That's great.
You get Paul and Jeff and all the hee-haw gang would just get the whole band back together.
That'd be great.
That would be fun, wouldn't it?
I'd love it.
I would too. That'd be fun. Let's talk a little bit about law enforcement. Okay. What's going on? Let's start a little bit about, Russell talked about a lot of improvements at the jail. How are things going at the jail as far as employees, turnover, things?
We still have a high turnover rate, and we're combating that, and I think we're progressing. Certainly, pay is always going to be, at the top of the list of a draw for employees. But at the end of the day, man, it is just a tough job.
Yeah.
A lot of times, and then we're part of the law enforcement community. A lot of people don't look at us that way, but corrections and the jail is as much a part of the law enforcement community as patrol or detectives or anyone else. I always said that the jail is the backbone of the judicial system. I mean, what good would it do to charge somebody with breaking into your house or stealing from you if we didn't have, somewhere to put them, So I always try to instill that pride, and the sheriff is in agreement with this 100%. He'll tell you it's the toughest job in law enforcement. But I always try to instill that pride in our deputies that work at the jail, because some of them, being younger, have aspirations of wanting to go to patrol or be a detective or something, and that's fine.
Sure.
When I was young, I thought that too. But trying to get them to understand that we are a very important part of the process that's involved in law enforcement, just as dangerous, if not more dangerous in some cases, than patrol officers.
Well, you're dealing with, what would be just like a city or town of folks that, aren't happy to be there.
Yep. And that's a good point, because we always train them that if we do our job correctly, we're really a city inside a city.
Yeah.
Is what we do. A lot, and you hear this a lot, the inmates have more rights than we do.
Yeah.
You hear that a lot. And I understand why people think that. I really do. We have to pay for their medical care.
Yeah.
We have to take care of their food. We have to make sure they have clothing. We have to make sure it's not too hot or not too cold.
Mm-hmm.
There are certain rules and standards we have to go by. So I understand the frustration of the citizen of, hey, this guy just broke into my house, and now,
He got 3 hots in the cot taken care of. Yeah.
I get that. But if I were going to argue the point,
mm-hmm.
I would say that the courts have taken away their right to freedom.
Sure.
And that's a big one.
That's
the
biggest.
That's the biggest. We tell them what they can and can't do every day. We tell them when to get out of bed. We tell them when to go to bed.
Yeah.
We even tell them what they can watch on television.
Sure.
We feed them what the rules say is a nutritious meal that we have to feed them, but it's not like the food.
Ordering out.
Yeah, it's not like ordering out. So those restrictions that we put on them are in order to attempt, at least, to rehabilitate them.
Sure.
And make them better when they get out than they were when they come in. Now, I put my tongue in my cheek when I say that, because recidivism is something that's going to be a part of corrections until the Lord comes back.
Sure.
And we accept that. But we make a lot of efforts every day at our jail to try to salvage the ones that we can and instill something in them that's going to make them better when they get out. So maybe they won't go back to that law breaking that they were doing when they.
Russell talks a lot about 90%, if not all, of the folks that you guys encounter. There's some connection to addiction.
Oh, Lord, yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
So it seems like as a country, if we could mental health and addiction,
Mm-hmm.
if we could address that, it would maybe stop some of that recidivism.
All right, so you got me on the soapbox now. I'm going to put on a commissioner hat and a jail hat at the same time.
That's right. I forgot. We can talk politics too, buddy.
So you are absolutely right, and if the sheriff told you that, he is 100% accurate. There is certainly a connection between addiction, mental health, and law breaking.
Yeah.
That is all connected. Ron, if we could take a magic wand and wave over the jail and get rid of drug addiction,
mm-hmm.
I probably wouldn't have a job.
It would clear it out
here in a month or two.
Yeah.
When somebody gets arrested for stealing your lawnmower and brought to jail, I can guarantee you they didn't steal that lawnmower to go cut grass.
Yeah.
They stole the lawnmower to buy drugs or to pawn it for drugs or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That's a fact. Some of them are self-medicating.
Yeah.
Some of them are using the illegal street drugs that are out there in order to make their mind feel better or whatever. And back before Lakeshore was shut down, we had an option for those people, especially if it was a low-level misdemeanor offense. We had an option for those people. We could get them mental health counseling. We could take them to Lakeshore, especially if they were suicidal, if they'd reached that point. And Lakeshore was a great, great resource. I hope Rick Scarborough's listening. I hope the Lieutenant Governor's listening, because this is something that
head up toward Campbell County.
Shutting down Lakeshore, I'll go on record
mm-hmm.
and say was a mistake.
Why did the state shut that down? Why was it shut down? Do you know, Shane?
From what I understand, a lot of it was they thought it would be a better idea to redirect the funding for that location.
Mm-hmm.
They were going, and I think Commissioner Varney was the Commissioner of Mental Health at the time. He made the comment to then Governor Haslam that we could redirect those funds that we were saving with Lakeshore to our local communities, other facilities that would help take care of our mentally ill at home in their own communities without sending them to a state-run facility.
Yeah.
And I remember watching that on television, and Governor Haslam asked the question, well, what about the ones that are charged with crimes that are in Lakeshore? and Commissioner Barney made some kind of comment to the effect of, well, that's a small, low population. We're not going to have to worry about those too much. Interpretation. The county jails can worry about those people.
Sure.
Okay?
Even if it's a small percentage to Lakeshore, it's a huge percentage to y'all.
Absolutely. And what that did for us was it turned our county jail into a mental health facility.
Sure.
We had a meeting not too long ago. Mayor Frank got it set up with several stakeholders in the possibility of having another mental health facility in East Tennessee. And when it got to my turn to speak, they were talking about, yes, Anderson County needs one. I said, y'all are mistaken. You think we don't have a mental health facility in Anderson County? And they looked at me kind of funny. I said, we got one. It's at 308 Public Safety Lane down in Clinton.
Jailhouse.
We ought to change the name from Anderson County Detention Facility to Anderson County Mental Health Facility, because a good portion of our inmates are suffering not only from addiction, but certainly from mental health issues.
Sure.
And now we have them incarcerated in a county jail. Some of them get to the point to where we have them locked down 23 hours a day and only let them out of their cell once a day. We have no choice. That's how we have to house them.
That's how you have to deal with it.
How is that helping
Sure.
their mental state? It's mind-boggling to me. Now, good news. I went to a meeting at Lakeshore Park not too long ago. The state is hopefully looking at building a new mental health facility over in East Tennessee, and it's going to have 30 beds in it.
30.
We'll fill that up ourselves, you know.
Day one.
But they did say, and I'm not trying to knock them on this, they've done well in doing this. I appreciate their efforts in this, that they're going to continue that study, and they may add on to it if need be.
Is the closest facility that we have, should you have a extreme mental health issue, is it Chattanooga?
Yes, sir.
So, and I know, I was talking to a deputy in Campbell County talking about they had a person up there that was out of their control. And so they had to take the person, prepare them, get them ready. 2 deputies had to drive them to Chattanooga. And then you wait to see if they're going to stay there. So it was like a day-long, you know, and they said, you know, for what it cost us to do that, if they applied those funds every time it has to go to having a facility, in the long run, we'd come out better.
Absolutely.
And,
I agree.
you know, just because of the manpower, the transportation power, the hours spent, you know, and then for the patient too. I mean, you know, they don't necessarily want to keep them if they can treat them and send them back to the jail, but that's not necessarily the best thing for the.
And sometimes they are so out of control that Marcus Ben can't take them. So then we have to take them to a facility in Franklin, Tennessee.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, yeah, still, again, you're still putting 6-8 hours each way, whichever way you go.
Yep.
And then 1 or 2 deputies to do that.
Yep.
It seems like, you know, if you stop, if the bean counters would stop, look at that. You know, you would think you could take that and multiply it by however many times it happens and how many jails it happens to, and take that money and look at it, and take that pile of money and say, we could do something with this.
I think they are. I think they're looking at that because, like I said, this facility they're hopefully getting ready to build back in East Tennessee. I think it's a good start.
Has anybody ever considered a private mental health facility that would treat? It just seems like there's such an astronomical need. I mean, you know, as a business person, you sit there and look at it, you think that might be, you know, advantageous financially.
Yeah.
I don't know the cost of treatment and doctors and all that stuff, but
I don't know.
Obviously it's needed. I've heard, you know, every police agency that I've spoken with, THP, Campbell County, Anderson County, PD here, PD, Rocky Top, all have the same, you know, same thing. There's just nothing to do with them. They bring them to you and you put them in jail.
Sure.
Or they take them up to Campbell County and put them in jail. So let's talk a little bit too, you know, last week the Chestnut Ridge landfill closed. I know you've got some information, you give us some, you can't. First of all, how was it discovered? Did it fall out of a truck? Was the body? Do you know anything of that caliber that you can share?
I am still waiting on our detectives to tell us that we can release some information that we have gained this past week on that, hopefully while I'm here.
Yeah, that's what you said. You're hoping for a text.
Yeah, right. As soon as I get that, then I should be able to shed a little bit of light on that. But, last week the body was discovered. They called us.
By an employee?
Yes.
Okay.
And Sheriff Barker and our detectives responded. We confirmed, that it was a body, and we called for the medical examiner's office, and they took it to the forensic facility over.
They'll determine cause of death and all of that.
Right.
How long does something like that take? Does it depend on the?
I don't know what the process is on how they prioritize those, but that's a good question. I'll try to find that out, because I know sometimes they do get behind, they do get backlogged, but I think on this particular case, they were able to at least give us some preliminary information.
Do you all have any, without saying, do you have an idea or inkling of who it might be?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, well, hopefully you'll get that text and we can release some of that stuff, and you can tell people, because that's, that's a very curious thing to folks. And
absolutely.
A lot of people are curious as to what happened. Other things that are going on in the county, do we have, I ask Russell this all the time, and I'm going to ask you, but you won't have any more information about if we've heard anything from the Attorney General or DA about the Clinton City school situation. I sent an email last month, and they responded and said that Brandy up there responded, said she would ask Dave if there was anything else they could release, because last time Russell was here, he was talking about some of the things that was discovered would run 11/29. Time might run out on it. Statute of limitations. So we were trying to get some information. We haven't found out anything about that. And any new news that you might know?
Don't know a thing about that. Yeah.
I figured as much, but it's my job to ask.
Oh, sure.
As far as the jail, though, you guys, one thing that you had made some progress with was making sure at one time, Russell, you guys were double digits backward in needing employees down there. Are we still?
Yeah, well, and we had
openings.
We had gotten a little ahead of the game back in midsummer, late summer. We were only down a few.
Okay.
And then we jokingly call it a mass exodus. We had like several who, one fella just told us one day, hey, listen, this is not for me.
Gotcha.
One lady we hired had gotten a job offer at the plants. And with that pay, I mean, we can't compete with that. We had a couple that had gotten several more job offers. We had one guy that came in one morning, and he was from out west originally, and his mother had taken gravely ill, and he wanted to go back out west to be with her and to help take care of her. And it's reasons that, I can't blame them for, but like I said, it's a tough job, and, we get a group hired in and we get them trained up, and then, something else comes along. It's just a tough job. Their job, Ron, and it's very unique. We have a couple of units that we call direct supervision, where the deputy is actually in there with the inmates.
Yeah.
And the only thing separating the deputy and the inmates is a red line painted on the floor.
That's what.
And the deputy's training in fortitude. And they're supervising over 60 inmates that may be charged with, anything from being ugly in public to first-degree murder, And that environment is very stressful. And even if it's not the physical dangers that the deputies are worried about all the time, it's the back and forth of the inmates, the games that the inmates play. They're trying to get an extra sandwich, or they're trying to get more time out when they're not supposed to. And that sounds trivial, but
multiply times.
Exactly. Yeah. And a lot of them, some of our deputies, and I don't necessarily agree with this, but some of our deputies, call it glorified babysitting, because, a lot of them will have that mentality of, I want something I know I'm not supposed to have.
Yeah.
And if somehow or another they get it, then you have 2 or 3 others that they decide they want to get it, So it's a constant stressful environment for a deputy to always be on guard of, dealing with these inmates and keeping them under control, making sure they're obeying the rules and stuff. And the theory is if we take care of the little things, we won't have near as many big things.
A few months ago, I had a couple of officers come up, and they were talking about new programs that had been installed. Well, we're doing some, after learning, some things to kind of help these folks. How are those programs going? And it was too early on to see if it was effective. It had just started, but how are some of those programs going, and is it working?
Yeah, and to give you a little bit of background on that, it was 2014, 2015, I believe. County Commission at the time, when they had decided to fund the building of the new area of the jail, what we call Unit 7, they also included a new county department called the Alternatives to Incarceration Department. That's what it was called. And the goal of this new county department was to look at each inmate that had been brought to the county jail and try to figure out why did they get brought in. What underlying reasons do they have? Is it drug addiction? Is it mental health issues? Do they just have violent tendencies? What reason was it that they were arrested, allegedly broke the law, and brought to jail?
Sure.
And then, while they were incarcerated, try to provide some kind of education or some kind of therapy or some kind of treatment that would address those particular issues, i.e. the whole goal of reintegration or rehabilitation, so that when they got released, maybe they wouldn't come back.
Gotcha.
So that department kind of grew and grew and grew till finally one day the county commission said there's no reason in it to be a separate department. Let's just go ahead and absorb the Alternatives to Incarceration Department under the sheriff's office. So the sheriff's office, for common sense reasons, assigned that to the jail division. So we kind of absorbed the inmate programs from the Alternatives to Incarceration.
Gotcha.
So our director for that is a lady named Lucretia Logan, who does a great job for us. She still continues that idea of let's try to figure out what these inmates need while they're here, provide that education to them. Some of them don't have high school diplomas or GEDs.
Yeah.
We just recently had a graduation of ones that got their GED a couple of months ago. And out on the street, on their own motivation, they normally would not have done that. But while they were incarcerated, the opportunity was given to them to do it. So now they've got a GED. When they do get released, maybe it'll be easier for them to get a job.
Well, have you guys been able to kind of weigh that to see, like, that thing.
Right.
If it's able to cut down on that, if people, I mean, and Russell told a couple stories of people that, that came in and made a difference, and they were able to move on and do better with their life. But are you able to kind of weigh that data and stuff coming in as
not
of
yet?
Okay.
And Chief Zach Allen, who's our jail administrator, he's working on that with Lucretia so that we can, and when we get that report, we will certainly publish that. We'll probably make an announcement on it. We're thinking that it is certainly making some good progress in lowering our recidivism rates. And Lucretia does a great job at keeping up with those numbers. Nothing we can publish yet. I want to go back to blaming COVID, too. I know we hear that a lot, but at one time our inmate population was up around 450, around 500, and we had more inmates that we probably could have helped, but at that time there were restrictions on what inmates we could allow into the programs, because if they have not been convicted yet of their crime, the courts at the time, their attorneys and the judges were concerned that stuff they would say in these programs, if they admitted to anything, it could be used against them when they went to court. So we were kind of restricted on what we can do.
How much you could extend to.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
So there were a lot of people we didn't think we could help. Judge Spitzer got all the judges to agree that we would not hold that against them if they said it during programs in court, so that they would have immunity from what they said during the programs.
Okay.
So, and don't get me wrong, there's some inmates, if it's a very high-level felony, we're not going to anyway, but the ones that we can really try to help. Well, about that time we got everything done, COVID, Department of Corrections, state level, got a bunch of those inmates.
Yeah.
The judges and the courts worked with us on releasing some because of the spread of COVID. So our inmate population dropped so much that reduced the number of inmates that we could really help. So we're climbing back up to a level to where we're able to do that again. So hopefully we'll have those numbers. I went around the mulberry bush to answer your question, but hopefully those numbers will be able to be reported before too long.
Sheriff and I talked about possible Justice Center. I don't know if you want to weigh in just personally what you think.
Sure.
Because you can talk from both sides of it. As a deputy, that would benefit or could help, and then as a commissioner, that had to figure out a way to pay for it. I'm
actually the chairman of that committee, the Justice Center Magistrate Committee.
Okay.
And we should be having a meeting coming up soon. I think Mayor Frank's going to get some dates together, and we're going to have another meeting pretty soon. But I think it's a very, very needed facility. The progress we've made on it so far, we've got an architect who's made a couple of very good designs, options for us. Hopefully, it would be located right next to the jail. It would be connected to the jail. And there are so many benefits, I believe, to having the courts and the jail connected. Number one, I think it's better communication. I think the sheriff would agree with that. If the sheriff's office was located, that close to the jail, it gives us quicker access to the courts. It's going to save so much in manpower and maintenance on vehicles and the number of vehicles and fuel for the vehicles, traveling back and forth to court. I think we've reached the point now where we would have to agree.
Would that eliminate the Oak Ridge Court?
I don't think it would eliminate it, no.
Why not?
I think that when Anderson County government, before I came on commission, decided that Oak Ridge Court was needed, I don't know if we've taken away all the reasons from that. Now, certainly, I would like to see us discuss some changes.
Well, let's get Rocky Top and Norris one, too.
Exactly.
Let's have them have... we don't need... we have a county seat. I think we're the only county in the state of Tennessee that has two courts. It's a county seat, and you come to court.
Right.
And it was done out of convenience for Oak Ridge. And I say this... Yeah, if they want, why don't their officers do the transporting back and forth, and why don't they bear the costs of it?
From their mouth to God's ears.
Just shut it down. You're a commissioner. Quit funding it.
Yeah. Well, there's other commissioners that would probably disagree with that.
Well, the Oak Ridge ones might.
Yeah. So here's my thoughts on that as a commissioner. If we could ever get this facility built, I think personally it would be very hard
to justify the other one.
However, I'm not sitting here right now today going to say absolutely shut them down. I think it's a discussion we need to have. I think the proof's in the pudding.
Tell me the benefits of it.
The benefits of it is there's taxpayers in Oak Ridge who are going to want to keep it down there.
Well, no, that's not a benefit. That's a convenience.
That's a convenience.
What's the benefit?
The benefit is the Oak Ridge, I'm telling you what they're going to say, not necessarily what I'll put my opinion in here at the end of it. The Oak Ridge Police Department is going to say they have a benefit from it. Now, when I did research on this before, the financial benefit that was brought from Oak Ridge Police wasn't a very big financial benefit at all. There were other options we could have considered to have benefited them other than that. Oak Ridge is going to be, I think, resistant to the idea. I think once we get the Justice Center a more viable possibility that we can show them, I think those excuses that they would use all these years maybe answered.
If it was financially advantageous, don't you think at least one more county would do it?
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a very good point.
We're not. Are we the most innovative county in the state of Tennessee that we come up with this? It's a convenience thing. Yeah. It's a convenience thing when the commission was stacked with Oak Ridge commissioners that wanted it, and they voted to do it, and it's hard to undo once you put somebody on the tit. Sure. It's kind of hard to get them off of it. But the reality of it is I pay for that.
Sure.
And because they don't want to drive down here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Oak Ridgers are county taxpayers too, but again, there's a county seat, especially if we build a justice center. And not only that, we remodeled, a 100-year-old building with over $1 million that still leaks, by the way. We've just wasted an astronomical amount of taxpayer dollars. For what? For convenience, so that if you get a charge and you live in Oak Ridge, you can drive 4 minutes instead of driving 17 minutes.
I get it. And I think it's a conversation that we need to have. I think the Justice Center is going to be the catalyst for those conversations to take place.
Sure.
I certainly want to give the Oak Ridge commissioners their opportunity to say why they think that we need to keep it down there. I would assume that they would have constituents who would tell them that's what we want you to do.
Well, then they can pay for it.
And that's a conversation, and I don't think Mayor Gooch would mind me saying this. Mayor Gooch and I have had a couple of conversations on that. I think other commissioners have talked about this. Oak Ridge is not paying enough for that facility to be down there. And I think a couple of times we have wanted to sit down with them and say, you need to up the increase of what you've been paying. I think they've been paying the same amount, and I need to get the numbers. I don't know if they've even paid it the last few years, of I think like $30,000 a year. That was the original agreement, I believe, that was in the original resolution. I don't think that's quite covering the cost of us having that down there. So that conversation has to take place.
Well, I look at stuff. We're getting ready to have a reappraisal, that. People's property taxes are going to change and go up. John Allen's going to be the most popular guy in the county here in a few weeks. People are going to be upset about it. So taxes are going to be changed. And then you just look at things that we've got that it's a absolute positive political plum that was done by commission years ago because there was an overwhelming Oak Ridge body on the commission that did it. And it's simply out of convenience for them and inconvenience for the rest of us. I mean, it's further to drive from Briceville to the courthouse than it is from Oak Ridge to the courthouse. Why don't we have a courthouse in Briceville?
I talked to one judge, this has been years ago, because this conversation comes up pretty regularly, actually, at the courthouse.
Every time I pay my property taxes.
So this judge said one of the arguments he heard was like civil cases when, Bob suing George or, whatever, and it winds up going through sessions, that if we wanted to have a civil docket day down there, keep it for that. Juvenile cases, sometimes maybe, and I think Judge Hunt was doing this for a little while, having a day down there that was juvenile cases, that if we wanted to have a reason for it down there, then, we could have that, but it would only be open like a couple of days a week. If Oak Ridge maybe don't want to up the cost that they're paying us each year, maybe that would be another option that somebody would want to consider. But I certainly get your point. I certainly hear it several times of, show me where this is financially advantageous to the taxpayer.
What does it cost us to have it?
It's a lot more than $30,000. I'd have to pull those numbers for you.
Well, I mean, just the renovations that were supposed to be $500,000 that ended up being a full $1 million. And like I said, I know for a fact the records room was still leaking after all of it was done. You see, spend $1 million of our money, taxpayer money, and the records that we're storing down there are still getting destroyed because of water and leaks. I mean, that might have been fixed since I talked to Rex about it when he told me, but it's just a waste of money. It's a waste of time. It seems like, if somebody's breaking into a house or somebody's cooking meth and you're going to have to take an officer and send him to Oak Ridge because somebody's in your jail for lack of proof of insurance, and you're going to drive them to Oak Ridge and back. You have to have a deputy there while they're there, and deputy driving back and forth. And you guys can't you're having a hard time keeping employees anyway.
Yeah, good point.
It seems like you take the money you're spending on Oak Ridge Court and put it into salaries. I'm serious. The gasoline.
Sure.
Or just say, sure, you can have your court. Oak Ridge City, you do every bit of transporting back and forth.
Yeah.
You pay the judges, you pay the rent, you pay the light bill, you do all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, another aspect to that, too, and I'm sure the sheriff has mentioned this before, he calls them the big four responsibilities that under the state constitution he's got to abide by. One of them is securing the courts.
Mm-hmm.
So,
we secure that one and this one.
Yeah. The deputies are responsible for making sure that we're protecting the judges and protecting the courts where they're having court.
Well, I remember we had to go through and redo all the windows. We had to redo all that stuff with bulletproof.
It's a big cost. You're absolutely right. It's a big cost down there.
So I have nothing against folks in Oak Ridge. Oak Ridge is a huge asset to our community, and I don't mean to say that. There comes a point in time when you ask everybody to bear a load, the majority to bear a load for the minority of people out of convenience.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make sense. It's the same kind of political BS we've dealt with on a national level. It's just a small group of people want something, they kicked loud enough and got it, and nobody wants to unwind it.
The practicality has to be evaluated, analyzed.
Yeah.
The practicality, the need of it, and like I said,
but that shouldn't be our burden of proof. That should be the people that demand its burden of proof.
Sure.
To show how it's that it's practical. To my knowledge, I've sat here for 35 years. Nobody's ever showed me any reason that it's practical to have it for the entire county. It's practical if you live there.
Right.
It's not practical if you live in Briceville. It's not practical if you live in Norris.
Right.
But that's, again, I digress.
I get it. I understand.
Speaking of which, we'll change gears over the commission. What's going on? It seems like things are moving in a good direction with Anderson County Commission. Good, quiet, no news is good news. A lot, I say that a lot, but it's the truth because people like to talk about controversy and stuff like that. And we haven't had any. So how are things moving, progressing? What's on the future with the commission right now?
Well, again, the Justice Center, hopefully we're going to get that, another committee meeting going with that and get some progress reports on where we're going with that. I think we have a point now, and I like this about our commission. I watch other counties around us, and it doesn't always go that way. I think we're at a point with our current commission where we understand where the other commissioners are coming from, and we consider what their districts need or what their districts want. And we've learned to agree, I think, to disagree sometimes. I have been taught early on, Tim Isabel taught me this early on, and it was something that I knew, but he re-emphasized it, is you can disagree with another commissioner, and you don't have to get mad at them.
No.
And I think for the most part we do that well. I think issues come up every now and then that, are more controversial than others. And I may not agree with the commissioner across the table or whatever, but I can disagree with them with Christian love in my heart and tell them my point, and they tell me their point, and we try to solve each problem that comes up. And I think we're at a point on commission now to where we're pretty good at doing that.
Seems like it.
Yeah.
And it seems like there's not animosity, everybody longs for that because we remember the days it wasn't like that. And it was, a commission meeting, you didn't know who was going to call who what or who was going to do what. Right. It was a tumultuous time. So that's good, and the county's in good financial condition.
Yeah, when I came on in 2016, I can remember the issues that we had were pretty much financial issues.
Oh yeah, low balance, low revenue.
EMS was hurting. We didn't have a whole lot in the bank. We were trying to help the seniors, the senior center. You remember that?
I do.
Yeah, that was another contentious issue, and we were just trying our best to do what we needed to do, but yet be as financially conservative as we could, because we knew that we were going to be responsible for next year and the next year and the next year. And I think we did a very good job. I think the mayor did a good job. I think our finance department did a very good job keeping us on track. Robbie Holbrook does a great job for us. Usually I go and meet with him before our budget committee meetings, and he tells me, you know, what I need to know going into the meeting as far as here's where we were, here's where we are, here's where we need to be in the future, and that helps us as a budget committee recommend good stuff to the full county commission of where we need to keep our finances. Now, I mean, we are in very good shape. The Lord's blessed us financially right now. Now, having said that, you mentioned poor old Johnny, here in the next couple of months. Yeah, we need to pray for Johnny because he is going to be.
People don't understand it.
Don't.
And I don't understand it a lot. I may understand it more than some, but they're going to come back. They're going to reappraise. The state will. And that's going to raise the value of homes.
Yeah.
And then you guys, as commissioners, it will. You can't increase the amount of money the county gets from property tax. So if our homes go up a value of 10%, let's just say across the county, you guys have to either lower our tax rate to equal that much, or you can vote to leave it the same, which wouldn't be a tax increase on paper, but to me it would be a tax increase because my home went up in value. So you'll be faced with that here before long, and people are going to be faced with, my house is not worth this much money. You know, because some property goes up. I've said this before when it happened to me. I'm like, all right. They said, well, Ron, it balances out. And I said, well, then show me the one that went down 70%. Mine went up 70%. Whose went down? You know, but there are people that it did. Their property, whatever, a home burnt, and a piece of property is not worth what it was with the structure on. I mean, so there is a balance to it. And it's just if you're on the receiving end of your home goes up 25%, your taxes go up 25%, when they tell you, well, somebody else's went down to make it, you know, he's still even, it still doesn't feel good.
Here's another thing, too. Over a span of a few months, we kept getting zoning changes from the Board of Zoning Appeals, wherever they come for a commission. We want to change the zoning in this particular area so they can build, you know, in a huge apartment complex, or they can build a subdivision, or we can put in campers, or we can put in a trailer park, or whatever. And one of the arguments was, well, that will increase the amount of revenue, you know, coming in. So maybe that'll loosen you up on property taxes. You know, you won't have to worry about that for a while. And again, it's one of those issues that on paper that sounds great. But we will get people who have lived in that community, and families have lived in that community for 100 years, who will come to the meetings and say, we don't want that. If I have constituents coming from the 4th District that say, Shane, we don't want that. I have an obligation to represent them.
Even if it's contrary to your personal beliefs.
Even if it's contrary to my beliefs are secondary. It's more of what the constituents want me to vote.
I get it.
So a lot of times we're voting no on these big projects. Some of them are saying that, and I don't know if they'd wind up that big or not. And, you know, that's another issue as far as this goes that we're having to deal with. And right now we're having joint meetings. Tim Isabel got this arranged. We're having joint workshops with our planning commission and trying to figure out what is good planning moving forward. The areas that may want developments like that, and the areas that don't, the areas that want to be left alone.
And that's part of the full scheme. I mean, if you rezone an area and it grows, it's just like the other day. My friend Bill come over, Bill Arrowwood, and he hadn't been up here in a while. And the gentleman that bought the property next to me, you remember what it used to look like? It was a farm. And now he's turned it into what might as well be a beautiful park. And he said, man, that's going to make the value of your property go up. All right. And you want your assets to appreciate. So that, it's figured in. If you rezone something or to make something nice, well, everybody's value is going to go up. But it's going to be a hard pill for some folks to swallow. Yep. So also, too, one thing that I prophesied about, if you want to call it that, and Tim Isbell did too, is that we were going to have an abundance of sales tax increase when these Amazon things passed.
Yeah.
And people fought tooth and nail about that, and I don't know why. And that's ended up to be a boon for us, haven't it?
Absolutely, it has. And I was one of those doubters.
I remember.
I was one of them. And don't get me wrong, Tim is a smart guy, and I love and respect him. He's been a mentor to me. I think the world of Tim.
Absolutely.
And when he said that, I was like, well, Tim, I hope you're right, but that ain't a definite.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm telling you, it's almost a definite. I mean, that much to being a definite. And he was right. He was absolutely right.
And that's where a lot of this new tax revenue that we've got has collected. I know with City of Clinton, and the municipalities do even better than the counties do on it, but it's helped a lot.
Sure did. I stand corrected on that.
And you know what? It is fair. I know a lot of people have fussed about that, but if I buy something online and I'm buying it from Indianapolis or whatever, I have to pay whatever the tax is, or pay what our tax is when it comes here. That's what I do. And we got away with not having to do that for a long time because it was, internet commerce. But it's reasonable and it's fair, and I think it's provided, a boost to a lot of the community.
My wife boosts it quite often. Yeah, I'm telling you. But it was true. It absolutely turned out to be true, and that was a fact.
I order from Walmart a lot, and I have our groceries delivered, and I constantly go in and change it to the Clinton Walmart because the closest one to us in Mariner Point is Oak Ridge. And somebody asked me one day, they said, why do you do that? I said, because I want the tax dollars, the sales tax to stay in the city of Clinton. Nothing against Oak Ridge, but even, when you're doing business, even if you're doing it online, if you're doing it with local companies in the city and the county still benefit from that. So
Very true.
I try to shop, even if I'm shopping online, I try to shop within the city limits, even if I'm too lazy to drive to the Walmart.
Robbie Holbrook, every budget committee meeting and every commission meeting, he'll give us a report on, the stats of how much, we brought in on that, how it compares to last month or last year or whatever. And Robbie does a great job keeping up with all that for us. But, yes, that has been a very strong revenue stream since it started. Whatever state legislator got that passed, I'd like to shake his hand.
So going forward, as far as growth in the county, you see a lot of not right now. Ask them, tell them if they got a question, tell you, and you send it to them if you don't care. We might take calls later, but going forward, justice centers out there. I know we have a need in the county terribly for medium family housing, mid-level family housing. What do we have anything on the burner for rezoning for new family homes? Do you foresight? What do you guys see as commission? What's been brought before you, for our future positively?
So
positive growth.
Kind of going along with that, for years we preached we need more jobs, we need more jobs, we need more jobs.
Yeah.
We done, when I say we, I mean everybody, not necessarily just commission, but we done a great job of. We got more jobs now.
Sure.
Now we need people
to live here,
to work at those jobs.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you for sure any particular projects that we've been involved in. I'm probably not the guy to answer that, but I see developments popping up. Certainly.
Well, zoning and stuff, that would come through you. If they rezone a farm from a farm to a residential.
Sure. Now, a lot of times, they don't need to come in front of us. The property they have is already zoned for what they want to do. So
if it's in the city, do they come before the city and the county, or just the city? I think I just went before the city when I rezoned out here.
I should know the answer to that question, Ron, and I apologize that I don't. I know it does have to go before the city, but I don't know if all of them have to go before the county as well. I don't know.
Okay.
I'll be honest on that. I should know, but I don't.
Well, I just,
I know in my district, I know Dutch Valley is certainly growing.
Absolutely.
You drive down Dutch Valley Road, and there's houses, popping up, all the time.
I was talking to a developer the other day, and I said, well, I see you've put 3 houses up. He said, they sold before I even broke ground. He said, I'm not going to do that ever again. I said, why? He said, because it's like I'm their interior decorator. They call and they want to change the cabinets. They want to change this. But he said, I could have 50 of them right now and sell them before I broke ground, right this very minute. There's people that want them that bad. There's a need, and I think it's not just us here in Anderson County, but it's all over the place. But you're right. I was on the retail task force for 10, 12 years, and that's what we did. We sought out retail. We sought out jobs. We sought out industry. Now, we weren't as big in industry as we were in retail, but, a lot of industry located here during that, and we solicited. And there have been a lot of retail that have located here since then in an effort to bring jobs and bring convenience. But now we're at a point, it's like, all right, we got jobs, lots of jobs coming to Oak Ridge. We've got, Jerry Shattuck was here last week, talked about how when the plants downsized after the war, the manufacturing, Greenbrier and some of the other manufacturing, Modine and some that were brought in early on, offset those 7,000 job losses, that people could still stay and work. And now I don't know how many multi-thousand jobs we have, but I think we're probably Campbell County and Scott County's biggest employer right now. And it'd be nice to have those folks living here.
Sure. Another issue, too, kind of going back to the jail inmates and the programs, one of the things that we're going to try to do is start job placement for those when they get ready to be released. Chief Allen's been working on kind of I guess it'd be a work release program to where we set them up for employment. They go out during the day,
and work.
Those that qualify will go out during the day and work and then come back at night. And there's a lot more that goes to that as far as the administrative part of it.
That's good.
As far as keeping up with, where they're going and how much they're getting paid and their transportation back and forth. But a lot of these places are asking for that because,
they need workers.
Yeah,
they need workers. Yeah.
And the ones that have, and it's been proven in other facilities, the ones that do that are more likely to stick with those jobs or at least leave that job for a higher paying job.
Sure.
So, that just helps everybody.
Sure. Well, yeah, it's a leg up. If you can rehabilitate somebody, and that's a way to do it through, financial means where they can support themselves, stay out of trouble, stay clean, and it's a great thing.
Yep, and that helps the job market. Just everybody wins.
Personal questions. Commissioner and sheriff deputy, when you guys are voting on stuff like that, you struggle with that? I know you excuse yourself some.
I don't struggle. When I first got on commission, I think some commissioners misunderstood what a conflict was. They thought that when the sheriff asked for 5 new patrol cars, that I should abstain. Why is that? Well, you have inside information. You and the sheriff have talked about those patrol cars. I said, yeah. Why haven't you talked to the sheriff about those patrol cars?
Okay.
You have the authority as a commissioner, and you know the sheriff as well as I do.
Sure.
The sheriff will call you back.
Oh, he'll talk.
He'll talk.
Set out some time.
He ain't trying to hide nothing. Every commissioner, if they have a question about the legitimacy of any request from anybody, should call them up and ask them, hey, explain to me why you need these patrol cars.
Gotcha.
I said, that's not a conflict for me to vote on. Now,
salary increases would be.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
The way Jay used to explain it to me was, if it puts money in your pocket, then it's a conflict that you need to do A, B, or C for.
Gotcha.
Now, here's my criticism of that. And again, it's another criticism of the state legislature. Poor old Ed Butler and Rick Scarborough's going to be mad at me, but this is just the facts. They change the rules on this every year in the state legislature. It's so hard to keep up with. At one time, I could vote on it. I just had to give this speech that said, I'm a county employee and I'm going to benefit from this vote and I'm voting of my own free conscience, so forth and so on. Then they came back and they said, no, you have to abstain if you're going to benefit from it.
Gotcha.
So what I did several times is I would write a letter to the sheriff and to the finance director, and I would say exempt Shane Val from this pay raise. And I'd still vote for it, just so the employees, especially the corrections officers at the jail,
could get it,
who were making a lot less than what they should, could get it.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you never know how a vote's going to go. So I would exempt myself just so I could vote for it. Then the law changed again and said, no, you can't vote for it, period. So then I had to abstain. But then it went back to, well, if you give this little speech. So depending on what day of the week it is and how the state legislature has ruled lately, I have to abstain or I don't have to abstain. So
at the end of the day, though, you just guide by your conscience?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I don't think people voted for me to represent them to abstain. I think they voted for me to represent their interest.
Yeah.
And I think I do a pretty good job at that. I try to communicate with people. And if they let me know this is how we feel on a certain issue, that's how I vote.
Sure.
Now, if I run into them at the store, I run into them, shopping, I run into them, at the courthouse or wherever. I have several constituents who are very vocal about their opinions on it, or they'll call me or they'll text me or whatever, and I appreciate that. That doesn't.
Your father-in-law was a little vocal.
Houston, he was the main vocalist when it came to stuff. Now, boy, let me tell you what you're going to do. I was on city council one time and we were talking about the liquor referendum. Oh, boy, you better not vote.
It don't matter. It don't matter what everybody else. I get it.
But I try to do it that way, and I'm sure other commissioners try to do it that way too. But yeah, and another thing, I was talking about this yesterday. I don't carry my Christian values in a suitcase and set it outside the door of the courthouse when I walk through. When I'm up there making decisions and making votes, my Christian values are there with me just like they are when I'm at home or in church or on the job or everywhere else.
Sure.
So, that's coming from my perspective.
Sure.
Yeah.
You were talking about earlier folks that didn't want things rezoned, and Johnny can attest to this. His dad, John, when they were fighting to rezone out of Fox Toyota for, at the time, Cabela's or what ended up being Tractor Supply and some other stuff, he called me because, I was vocal for it. He was like, why do you want that? And I said, well, I think we need the retail. I think he said, I think we need the mountains. I like it the way that it is. But
I get it.
There are a lot of folks. There are a lot of people that want to preserve. You guys walk a fine line. I talk a lot to, the people that are preserving downtown, the people that want growth. Walk a fine line with keeping our history and heritage and the beauty that God gave us, and then with growth, it's a hard act to follow.
Rocky Top, for example.
Rocky Top, sure thing.
Take you back a little bit. We'll really get some calls on this one. I can remember being on city council. I was on city council from 2012 to 2016. And man, we were doing the best we could, but we were struggling.
I remember.
Financially. And this idea about the name change came along. And I first heard that, and I thought, man, this is a crazy idea. It's a crazy idea. But then we started having meetings, and it started getting explained about the possibilities and stuff. Just about everybody in town was for that. And the reason they were for it was because the city was struggling financially.
Yeah.
And we saw this as an opportunity to boost some tourism and to revitalize that town. Because you can go to City Hall or you can go to places all over town and you can see pictures up on the wall of back when the coal mines were booming, back when
it was a different place.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Just a great, beautiful, and I had hopes maybe we can get back to a little bit of that.
Sure.
And people talk about how crazy of an idea it was, but you know what? That wasn't the first time that overall idea was thought of.
I know when Norris Lake came, that's how I got to be Lake City.
That's how I got to be Lake City.
Well, I can tell you this, Mayor Lovely, the first year, and I was key in getting that name change. I was a big part of that. I'm the one that brought it to Tim and took it down, But the first year that the name was changed, Rocky Top's city tax revenue grew 31% the very first year. And then, I remember when the fireworks store left and the liquor store came in, that boosted a whole lot of sales. Not that it's necessarily what was wanted, but it boosted a whole lot of retail tax revenue sales.
Yeah, that was on a referendum. I remember. That wasn't a city council.
That wasn't a city council thing. But the name change did increase tax revenue from the first year forward. Now, I haven't talked to the current mayor, and I haven't talked to the administration, since Michael left, as far as tax revenue increases and things like that. But I know that it was a steady growth that hadn't been taking place in years prior. It was attributed to people stopping off, just because of the name.
There's still people who stop and get their picture made.
I know.
In front of the sign or in front of City Hall. I see it a lot.
Yeah, there's the interest is, I know people were like, they said there was going to be an amusement park. And there's been a half a dozen things that have came in and looked, and for one reason or another, it just hasn't fit. And I've been involved in at least 3 of those. But there will be the day, I'm telling you, there will be the day, and it's probably not very far off, especially if things turn in the economy. I think that you'll see some really good things on that end of the county.
We get criticized a lot for it, but I still agree with the decision.
You got 2 exits. You got a lot that no one else has.
I still think, I agree with you. I think at some point it is going to pay off, and certainly I think we felt we had to do something. We had to try something. Growth in that town, I still think it's going to happen. I think the current administration is trying.
Yeah.
I think they're doing things up there right now to try to build that growth.
Sure.
I think they still have a downtown development committee.
Okay.
I think they started that after I left, and I think they're doing different things to try to improve the town and bring in some revenue, tourism revenue. I think there's a lot of positives in that town. I love that town.
Absolutely.
I will.
I think that it'll come. I think that it'll grow. I know the challenges that were there before and that currently are there too. And not that retail and not that housing is going to cure everything, and not that the city council, they only have so much power. It's not like they can wave the wand and make Chick-fil-A come, but they can be business friendly. And there's a lot of business, I guess the right term would be business developers up there. I could name one right off the top of my head who's always trying. To Gordon Cox. Gordon is always doing stuff to increase and bring. He has forever.
Yes. And it's not like options aren't out there, but just like you said a while ago, sometimes they don't come to fruition for many different reasons. And I think eventually it will. I think some people will be surprised in the future.
Well, there's been, again, I know for a fact that there have been some pretty big name people that were attracted to it and came and looked at it, talked about it, and the same thing that enticed them, that maybe it wasn't the right time for them, will entice other people. The same, 2 X's off of I-75 by itself, just by itself, I would have thought would have developed very quickly.
Well, Mike Lovely's dad, Grady, that was one of his selling points anywhere he went. We got 2 exits. We got 2 exits off 75.
And it, you talk about preserving, people want to keep things, looking like they do and nice, and we should, and I want to do that too. But there will be a day those exits will fill up.
Well, and that's one thing too that I've had several conversations with the Chamber of Commerce about. Their theory has always been the Clinton exit before long is going to be pretty packed, and that will eventually push the possibility of development on down to the Rocky Top exits. And I appreciate that theory, but I would love to see it sooner rather than later.
Well, you know what? You and I are close to the same age. Do you remember as a young man, a little boy going to Gatlinburg?
Oh, yes.
Now Gatlinburg starts at the 407 exit. It's pushed all the way back. The tourism, Buc-ee's and all the other stuff. And so there's truth in what the chamber is saying. It will push. Knoxville will continue to push out into the suburbs, and it will keep going backward. But I'm like you, it would be better if it was planted there now, sooner rather than later.
Absolutely.
And I know, we've had gun manufacturers look up there. Yep. We've had a lot of different things, from retail to industry to a lot of different people that have.
They bring it up every so often. Some of it, like I said, probably ain't a point that we can talk about it, but yes, development possibilities are coming up.
Oh yeah.
Ever so often, and some of them are within the city. Some of them are outside the city up there. I mean, I would really believe people's going to be surprised.
I've always wondered, and maybe this goes on, and it's it's out of my wheelhouse, and I don't know, but I always thought that Rocky Top should try and form some kind of private-public partnership with Windrock. With the AT, something that Windrock is growing like crazy, building campgrounds, doing all this stuff, and I don't know how you would do that, but I just thought, what a natural fit, if you could have a public-private development relationship agreement, something ongoing, because man, those guys are bringing people in, and you all that live up there are getting the benefit of it too. There's traveling through there. The people park up there.
Well, the four-wheeler laws, about the roads and stuff.
All that.
Man, they first brought that up, and that was another one of those crazy ideas. And I thought, man, I don't know if this is going to work.
People riding them four-wheelers everywhere.
My gosh, guys, are y'all sure? Yeah, it's going to work. It's going to work. Oh my gosh, has it worked?
Yeah, it's done very well.
We are known as one of the four-wheeling capitals.
Yeah, I know.
And the state legislature passed it for Highway 116 all the way across. Businesses up in that area. I mean, you go talk to Scotty, over in New River at Scotty's store, and you ask him about the four-wheeling riders and all that. I mean, I have to admit that was a good decision, and you're absolutely right. If we connect those two and get some kind of partnership going, I think it'd be very beneficial.
Mark Smith, Tim Isbell, and I, at one point, when Mark had the pharmacy up there and he was getting ready to go out of the pharmacy business, we almost opened a four-wheeler business right there, at his building. He ended up selling it and selling the building when we didn't go through with it. But I saw back then there's going to be a market. There is a market.
Yeah.
And it's going to continue to grow and grow.
All the time, going through town, hauling ATVs.
Again.
All the time.
A lot of people are concerned. They worry about Rocky Top, worry about, the drug issue. It's everywhere. It's not just Rocky Top, it's everywhere. But a lot of people worry about it. But I believe that, better angels will prevail. And I think that the growth will come. And as long as City Council's ready for it, and I think they are, it'll be, controlled growth.
If you go to those City Council meetings and you hear those conversations, they are.
Yeah,
they are ready. I think they're putting forth some effort to try to change a few things up there that may welcome some stuff that in the past maybe we thought wouldn't be successful.
Sure.
And I'm very, very hopeful.
Anything else you want folks to know about Commission, about Rocky Top, about Bryceville, about Sheriff's Department? Anything we haven't covered you want to talk about?
Just want to wish.
I wish you'd got a text while we was here so you could reveal some of the stuff in the landfill.
I've been looking. We haven't gotten that yet.
All right.
But regardless, once we get the word, I'll certainly let you know. But
absolutely.
No, I just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and have a lot of faith and confidence that the new year is going to be very, very beneficial to the county. Obviously, we'll have a few bumps. We always do, but they got some good folks leading the county that I believe we can overcome them, and we're going to take the county forward.
Well, you gave Russell a good run for his money. He talked for an hour and a half.
He could probably still out.
Oh, no. Yeah. He when we finish on the air, he'll talk for another 45 minutes, too. So.
Sure.
Captain Val, Shane Val, thank you so much. Homegrown Elvis. You'll always be homegrown Elvis to me. So, I appreciate you. I've told you this 100,000 times. When my dad turned 70, and that's been a while back, you came out.
Yeah. Had a good time.
Yeah, we had fun, didn't we? We had a big party.
And that's been something about doing Elvis, and I've done it since I was 15.
Mm-hmm.
My mom was a huge Elvis fan, had a lot of his records. One of the worst weapons I ever got, I took the Moody Blue record and tacked it up on the wall while she was going to work one day. She liked to beat me to death. But I've never made a lot of money doing that, but I have so much fun doing that.
Absolutely. We'll do the reunion or the farewell or whatever you want to call it to her.
Yeah.
You just ring me up and we'll pack a place out, I'm sure.
Yep.
Let me know.
As a matter of fact, Sammy Sawyer, I talked to him the other day.
Well, sure.
On it too.
Well, yeah, we'll get Barney in on it. We can't do it without Barney.
Absolutely.
All right, Shane, thank you for coming in today. And again, appreciate the sheriff having you come in. I know, like I said, he's at the doctor's office. He said he had a doctor's appointment. We want him to be well, healthy, and all that good stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, keep him busy and keep him in line, okay?
Yeah, well.
Good luck.
We'll try.
All right, see you, folks.
Thank you for listening to AM 1380 WYSH and Ask Your Neighbor. Make sure you tune in at 10 a.m. each day, Monday through Friday, right here on AM 1380 WYSH and BBB TV 12. Or listen live online at WYSHradio.com. And remember, if you have a question, comment, or problem, call in tomorrow and ask your neighbor. Or email from our website. It's Ask Your Neighbor. Thanks for listening.
The Christmas shopping season is upon us, and here's a really good idea. Shop local. When you do that, you support local businesses that employ local folks. Shylock's in Clinton. Local people serving local people.